Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. The title of this episode is The Effects of True Deceit and False Love. In this episode, we are speaking with Marni Hill Foderaro, who is an award-winning and celebrated author, speaker, and educator. She earned her doctorate in education from Northern Illinois University and completed postdoctoral studies at Harvard after a very successful and rewarding 35-year career as a high school special educator teacher with 12 years as a university adjunct graduate school professor. Marni's life was forever changed after experiencing numerous trauma-induced spiritually transformative encounters, STEs. Marni's 2020 Best Book award-winning spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale, is prominently endorsed by James Redfield, best-selling author of the Celestine Prophecy series of books. Marni's latest prominently endorsed 5-book series is entitled True Deceit False Love, which addresses domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, parental alienation, and intergenerational family trauma. Wow, Marni, what a great background. I love it. I barely spoke through that. Sorry for my mix-ups in my words, but I'm such an honor to have you on. Can you explain to us what are spiritually transformative encounters? I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, sure. And I didn't know what they were until after I had them and then did a lot of research on this. But they are encounters that just can't be explained by just ordinary language or experiences. They are otherworldly. They make you question, like, is there a coincidence that this is happening? Or, did I really see that? And it oftentimes does happen to people when they have experienced some sort of trauma. A very common experience is a near-death experience where someone actually flatlines and they go on to see the light, to meet God, to go through a tunnel, to be supported by divine somehow. And then they come back to earth to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there are thousands of accounts of people that have done that. And a lot of scientific research now has gone on to support the validity of these experiences. Spiritually transformative encounters or experiences are those that where someone doesn't actually flatline, but they have very similar experiences that just really change their lives. And so, just to give you kind of a brief idea, I happened to have a garage sale during this big change in my life. And I was definitely in a state of gratitude and thankfulness, sort of some deep meditation in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I, at one point, was circled by a dragonfly, and then shortly after five dragonflies. And within a very short period of time, I was circled by 50 to 100 dragonflies. They were circling me, and the feeling that I got was that I'm loved and supported. But, it was a bizarre experience to have, this happen to me. It made me really wonder, is this really happening? Am I imagining it?
Yeah.
And luckily, 3/4 of the way through, I was sort of coming out of my kind of awe and amazement of it all. I pulled out my cell phone and videotaped it. So I had proof. Yeah, this really happened. And so that was just the start of so many different things that where I had, information and people come through electronics, or I actually saw someone levitating, things that I would not believe in at all unless I experienced it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, I went on to do a lot of research afterwards to really learn about this and realize that this is something that happens to a lot of people. It's just we are now finding our voices, and we're given platforms to just share about this, because it is happening. Kind of like a spiritual awakening is happening to a lot of people right now.
Yeah, it is. It's the time the Great Awakening is kind of what they call it. And, there is a spiritual war going on right now. I mean,
Agreed.
it's like a World War III, but it's not in our like realm. It's in the spirit realm. And that's why there's a lot of rumblings happening here on earth. And I totally agree with you on that.
Mhm.
It's like, it's for the children though. I feel like it's like the golden age for the children right now. And it's a spiritual battle for our children and their souls.
I couldn't agree more. I really resonate with, your thoughts on this. Yeah.
Yeah, we're actually, I feel like living in really biblical times. I feel
Mhm.
like our generation, like we've never seen anything happen like what has happened in the Bible, like
Right.
the Red Sea splitting. And,
Mhm.
don't know a ton about the Bible, but I do know that our generation hasn't seen God's hand. And
Right.
what they say is we're going to see God's hand. What's going to
Mhm.
happen? We don't know what, we don't know when, but there's going to be a time that it's going to be biblical for us. And I really hope that that does happen because I think we need it in
Right. Well,
today's
I
society.
believe it is happening. And, in fact, so much so that I'm going to make sure in the near future that I go to the Holy Land again.
Oh,
Just to be in where it all began. And,
mhm.
so I agree. And I think that there is a spiritual war going on, and it is playing out in our homes, in our workplaces, in our lives,
In our
in so
schools.
many different ways, in our schools. But I'll tell you, I have, I have suffered a lot of heartache and losses as a result of staying true to my integrity and my values of love and goodness and honesty. And, when you really um, live, this way, it is very hard to keep people or situations in your life that really don't resonate with those same kind of values. And
Mhm.
sometimes it takes years and years and years for the true deceit to actually show itself. You can go for years without, just blindly thinking that, hey, everyone is honest and loving and caring and has good values and care about the children. Not everyone does.
No, they don't. And sometimes it's hard for people to see that there is evil in the world
Mhm.
because your reality, you only know what's in your reality. And like you kind of sometimes think that like other people think the way you think because you don't know
Mhm.
any different. You're just seeing through your eyes and living through your life, and there are people with bad intentions.
Yes, there
And,
are.
you know, there are villains out in the world. Like these movies aren't just made for no reason sometimes,
Right.
they're predictors to what's going to happen in the future. And there's always a villain like trying to take over the world. Like, who's to say there's no crazy narcissist billionaires out there that want to take over the world because whatever their
Yeah.
agenda is. So.
Right, right, definitely. And so many of us, on a large scale or a small scale, we're experiencing, that cognitive dissonance where, we realize that not everyone has good intentions, that people really can be out to destroy you. And then when it's someone in your family or someone you've committed your life to, or if it's in a work situation where you've, been for a long time, and it's just shocking when the light bulb goes on and you figure it out. And then you're left with a choice.
Yeah.
Do I just go along status quo just to keep the peace? Do I play the game? Do I just, say, well, this is the best I can do, or, maybe I'm supposed to experience all this for the rest of my life? Or you can take another approach and say, wait a minute, I love myself, I value myself, I believe in honesty and goodness and integrity. And even though I might suffer significant losses, um, in the long run, it will probably be the best to stay true to your integrity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think integrity is important. I know for me, like my thoughts are so different than all my family. And I have some friends that have the same thoughts as me and some friends that don't. Like if you ask my
Mhm.
opinion, I'm going to tell you my opinion.
Sure.
But I'm not going to just like voluntarily do it because my opinion sometimes isn't the most favored one. As you were mentioning earlier, you can kind of get crucified for thinking differently and outside the box and, outside of the matrix that everyone's in. So
Mhm.
I totally agree with you on that. But
Yeah.
I want to get back to your book,
Sure.
your 5-book series, The True Deceit of False Love. I think it's important to address some of the issues that you have in there. Women, even men sometimes can end up in domestic violence, narcissistic relationships.
Sure.
So I just kind of wanted to get your take on the book and, you know, if you help guide people through these types of situations and just kind of get a little bit more insight.
Sure. Well, I didn't set out to write this 5-book series, True Deceit, False Love. Um, just like I didn't set out to write my 2020 Best Books award-winning spiritual fiction, God Came to My Garage Sale. When I had something to say is when I put it all together. I chose to leave a 27-year marriage when my light bulb went on.
Mm-hmm.
I was dealing with someone who had very, very different values than mine. And you know, I was left with a choice. And gosh, I wish I would have planned it better, my escape, because it would have been a little bit more comfortable. But when you're dealing with someone who is malevolent or, you know, um, really out to destroy you once you figured out what they're all about, it almost doesn't matter what you do. They're going to obsess over you and stalk you and harass you and try to bring you down.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have God's love and when you have your own belief at knowing what is right, you can achieve anything and you can overcome anything. So, you know, I always believed in true love. I really thought that's what I was living, but it really was true deceit and
Mm-hmm.
the love was false. And so that's how that title came to be. And, how it started was really, I was just trying to figure out what I was going through. Um, I was listening to podcasts. I was reading literature. I was just trying to find out, like, what in the world was I experiencing? In
Mm-hmm.
my case, too, there's a very unfortunate family dynamic called parental alienation, and it happens to wonderful dads and wonderful moms. Just because of their ex-spouse wants to destroy them. They've taken everything from them,
Yeah.
their home, their money, their jobs, their health, whatever. They've taken everything, and they know what means the most to you as your kids. Well,
Yeah.
that is just unbelievably devastating. And in my case, my children were 20 and 23 at the time. So it's not like they were little kids that, were confused, but I had to learn a lot about parental alienation and narcissistic abuse and domestic violence. So I would write down different terms just to kind of look up later. Well,
Yeah.
before I knew it, I had like 100 terms to look up. And then there was 1,000 and then 10,000. And actually at that point, I'm like, wait a minute here. I'm gonna, if this is helping me, I'm sure it will help someone else. So the first book in my series, it's 15,555 terms and phrases on all this family dynamic. And it was very well received and prominently endorsed by, abuse recovery therapists, researchers, people that I actually look up to get information. They looked at me and said, wow, you are providing a resource
Yeah.
for people to do their own work and understand what they've been through. And then the rest of the books just kind of came along with acrostic poetry that's informational, definitely not gender specific or role specific. So it can be a dad, a mom, a child, a grandparent, a boss. It can be an abuser writing
Yeah.
it. It can be a victim. So it really can reach a wide audience. And then I even did a word search puzzle book, because sometimes when you're going through such heavy trauma, you need to lighten it up a little bit and, distract yourself, because it's very easy to ruminate on replaying things. Why did I go along with that? Why didn't I say no? Why didn't I leave 10 years ago? That type of thing. You go through all these things in your head. And so anyway, I have this word search puzzle book that has vocabulary and related things to it, and it's just very calming to look at the words and think about what you're going through, to kind of take the time to make sense of things. So that's actually become a bestseller, that book. And so that is the basis of why I did the 5-book series, True, Deceit, False Love, because it was not only healing for me, and it's also kind of putting the truth out there, which is going to kind of upset the narrative of the abuser, because they who knows what they are telling other people in their big smear campaign.
Exactly.
They're very skilled at it, though, because they can get neighbors, they can get longtime friends, even family, to align with them and turn against, the honest, loving, caring person. It's shocking. But then it's very much like a cult. When you can say, how could people join a cult and leave their families and go along with this? Well, it happens. It happens. And so we need to get stronger in who we are and our beliefs. And so what was healing for me has turned out to be healing for other people.
Hey friends, I hope you are enjoying this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. This podcast would not be possible if it wasn't for the support of you, my wonderful community. To support Your Mama's podcast, please click the support link right down below, and you can donate just as little as 99 cents. Also, follow me in the Shop Like to Know It app, where you can follow me with all my exclusive content, all the way from baby products I love, fashion and style, and everything in between. Now let's get back to the episode. Well, that's amazing. We need books like yours, because women, men, whoever, like you said, it's not gender specific. They'll feel trapped or lost, in these abusive relationships. And you really have to work on yourself to give yourself the courage and the strength to leave. To come up with a plan, an exit plan. Sometimes people don't have exit plans, and they just
I didn't have an exit plan, and boy, I wish I did. But another big thing is, at some point you need to do a lot of your own inner work. You need to go back to your family of origin, and you need to look at those dynamics with your own parents and siblings and try to figure out what makes you an extreme empath or an overgiver, or someone that doesn't have the boundaries needed to preserve yourself. At some point it's very, very hard, and it's a long journey and a process, but sometimes you have to let go of people and situations, and at the same time you're letting go of what's familiar, or you're letting go of hopes and dreams. You're letting go of society's, perception of what people should be, just to preserve yourself and to live a happy life. And, I don't know. I think that it's a journey that involves so many different things. And I believe that there's definitely divine intervention that helps, because the losses can be so tremendous. That almost like, how can you carry on? And luckily I'm someone who's never been suicidal. I've never been diagnosed with a depression or a mental illness or anything like that. I can only imagine, if someone struggles with that, how difficult this journey would be, because it was difficult enough for me without those things.
Yeah, it's difficult for the strongest people,
Right.
Like, we're all humans, and we all feel emotions, no matter how tough our exterior looks. what
Yeah.
goes on behind closed doors and behind their four walls, they don't show to the world, like in
Right.
terms of sadness and yeah, no, it's a tough journey. So what are some signs for people to recognize that they're in like a narcissistic relationship? What are some signals and signs for people who are unaware of the dynamic that they're in? What are some signals?
Yeah, definitely. There, we call them red flags in this
Mm-hmm.
community, that you need to pay attention to red flags. If something doesn't feel right in your gut intuition, just something seems off, then follow that feeling, because you're probably on to something, or you're being given a message to really evaluate or reevaluate the relationship that you're in. Isolation is a very big part of it. In fact, abusers will even isolate their children from each other. So like a brother and sister might not even have a relationship, all because the abuser is separating them. They don't want them to compare notes. They don't want them to have each other as a support system. But isolation is very common. In fact, it's easy for the victim to start to isolate themselves,
Yes.
because even though that might not even be in their nature, but the abuser has gaslit them so much, made them question their reality or their friendships or their interests. They might even question what food you like, or what clothes you like to wear, or music you listen to. I mean, things that really, that's not for anyone else to have their opinion to make you change those things, but they'll do that. They
Yeah.
slowly question, they slowly put ideas in your head that make you really feel like you're confused, and then they'll belittle you. So like if your partner is belittling you, putting you down for even the smallest
The
thing.
smallest things. Yeah.
Yeah, the littlest things, and that's how they start, and they'll love bomb you, in that they'll be intermittent reinforcement. So there'll be times when it's good, because not all times are bad. I mean, I stayed in this marriage 27 years. There had to have been some positives in there,
Mm-hmm.
which there were. But then again, then it's coupled with the real put downs and belittling. And another thing too is, if your partner is glued to their phone, or they keep their everything so private, they would never in a million years give you a password to anything. In fact, they usually have 50 to 100 passwords, because they're juggling. These are very sick individuals, and they they spend a lot of time hiding what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, isolation is a big one. Your gut feeling, if they are away from home a whole lot, if they have excuses. Money manipulation is a huge thing too. Financial abuse is just unbelievable. And even if you are someone who earns a good salary, you are somehow, that abuser will get a hold of all that money, or will forge documents, or they will get you to sign on certain things so that
Yeah.
you're responsible for debt. And so money is a huge controlling issue with these abusers. So those are some of the red flags to look out for.
No, perfect. Thanks for sharing all of that. I hope that it resonates with the audience, so they can take an interlook at themselves and their relationships. And, I want people to be happy and healthy, and living their best life and having their best partner that they can. So before we go into our 4 questions, do you have any last words you'd like to mention?
Well, I would just say to your audience, hey, we all are going through challenges, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in our jobs, our health, our families, you know, um, our living arrangements, whatever it is, we all have challenges in our life. But if we handle the challenges with love
Mhm.
and compassion and honesty and goodness, Forgiveness is important too, but it's not necessarily meaning that because you forgive someone else, you are letting them back into your life, or that you're trusting them again or something like that. No, you need to work on your boundaries. But, no matter what the challenge, you can rise above it. Just, take some time to reflect on what you're really dealing with, and stay true to who you are, and find some sort of creative outlet for yourself. Whether, for me, writing is very important. But I also had a change of scenery. I lived in Chicago suburbs for my life, and now I live in the Caribbean.
Oh,
And so I made a change, in my life, which really was very helpful. Get yourself out in nature, take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your spirit, and you will rise above these challenges. So please don't feel you're all alone in dealing with whatever you're dealing with. You're not all alone. There are others out there, and you'll find your way. Just really make it a point to do so.
yeah. The phrase I always like to use is "this too shall pass."
Mhm.
Wherever there's a storm, there's a rainbow at the other end of it,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yep.
So, okay. So diving into the questions, my first question to you is who and what inspires you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, probably so many different people and so many different things. I would say nature is very inspiring for me. I am immersed in nature. I live in the rainforest. I'm swimming in the ocean. I am just amazed at the beauty of our natural world. So that is extremely inspiring for me.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I want to be living in the Caribbean with the rainforest,
Yeah.
all the trees and the greenery. I love
Mhm.
it. Um, so the second question is, what is something you wished you knew when you were younger?
Oh, wow. I would, I wish I was a little more discerning about the people I let into my life,
Mm,
not just to be a complete open book, thinking everyone had my same values of happiness, goodness, honesty. I wish I had a more discerning eye, because that could have saved me, much heartache.
mm.
But then again, maybe that was all part of my journey, that I needed to go through that.
Yeah, to learn it and then to create these books to share
Yeah.
with the world. So, I mean, there's a silver lining in it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, okay, that was a great answer. And then my third question is, what's the essential part of your daily routine?
I would say just having some quiet time, whether I'm floating in the pool or whether I am working in my garden, or hiking the rainforest. I think just having some time alone where I really kind of let go of the cares, or the concerns, um, because even though I'm retired and I'm in the Caribbean, I still have a lot going on and things to do, and a lot goes in my head. I am always kind of thinking. So I think it's very important to try to get yourself to a very calm state where you can kind of free up your mind as much as possible.
Yeah, that's good advice. And then, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Um, I would probably say my mom gave me great advice to just, be who I am. Just be who you are. She wasn't trying to make me into someone, or to do this or do that, or go to this school or study this, or she really gave me kind of free reign to just be who I am. And
Oh,
that was really good advice, and that's advice that I would give especially to the younger people out there. Just follow your own passions and your own dreams. Don't just try to feel like you need to live up to your parents' expectations, or society is telling you, oh, you have to make so much money or do this kind of job. No, you don't. You can do whatever you want to do, and but be who you are and feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great reminder. Just be your authentic self. And it's really hard sometimes, I feel like, with society pressures,
Sure.
like you have to do this route to be successful. But I've noticed that the people that go to the unconventional way are
Mhm.
usually more successful than the people that went the conventional way. So,
Sure.
you know, well, Marni, thank you so much for coming on this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. If you guys want to reach out to her, I have all of her information down below in the show notes. Don't be shy. Go say hi. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Mama's podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.